For thousands of years, one name has haunted the edges of human imagination: Atlantis. A lost world swallowed by the sea, rich in wisdom and wonder, destroyed in a single day and night of misfortune. But beneath the myth, beneath the waves and words of Plato, is there a trace of truth? Was Atlantis a memory of a forgotten civilization, or merely an allegory crafted to teach a philosophical lesson? What if the answer lies hidden, not in what we've been told, but in the clues almost nobody talks about? The story begins in ancient Greece around 360 BCE, when Plato, the philosopher, wrote two dialogues, Timaeus and Critias. In them he describes a great island nation beyond the Pillars of Heracles, known today as the Strait of Gibraltar. It was a maritime power larger than Libya and Asia combined. The Atlanteans were said to be technologically advanced, possessing knowledge of architecture, agriculture, and navigation that surpassed any known culture of the time. Yet their power bred arrogance. When they tried to conquer Athens, they were defeated, and their island sank into the sea in a single day and night of misfortune. For centuries, scholars treated Plato's account as fiction, a parable about moral decay and the fall of pride. Yet the question never died. The world is filled with sunken ruins, ancient maps, and unexplained structures that seem to whisper of something greater lost to time. And perhaps, if we listen closely, they might lead us to what Plato really meant. Let's start with the origin of Plato's tale. He claimed his story came from Solon, the Athenian statesman, who heard it from Egyptian priests in Sais, a city in the Nile Delta. According to them, Athens was an ancient and noble civilization that had defeated a powerful island empire long before recorded history. Egypt's records, they claimed, went back 8,000 years, suggesting Atlantis existed around 9,600 BCE, the same period modern science now calls the end of the Ice Age. That is the first clue often overlooked. Plato's timeline coincides with a real geological event, the Younger Dryas, a period of sudden global climate change, massive flooding, and sea level rise. Entire coastal regions were submerged. Could Atlantis have been one of them? If we look beyond Greece, we find ancient memories echoing the same story. Nearly every culture has a flood myth. The Sumerians spoke of a deluge that destroyed the world. The Bible tells of Noah's Ark. In India, Manu is warned by a fish to build a boat before the flood. In Mesoamerica, the Maya and Aztecs described suns that ended in water and fire. Are these just coincidences or cultural memories of a real cataclysm that erased coastal civilizations? Now consider the geography. Plato wrote that Atlantis lay beyond the Pillars of Heracles in the Atlantic Ocean. If true, that places it somewhere in the waters west of Spain and North Africa. For centuries, explorers have searched this region for traces of the lost world. In 1882, a congressman named Ignatius Donnelly published Atlantis, the Antediluvian World, arguing that Atlantis was the mother civilization of all ancient cultures, from Egypt to the Americas. His ideas were ridiculed by academics but captivated the public imagination. Yet new geological and archaeological evidence has given some of his claims surprising support. Off the Azores Islands, Portuguese sailors have long told of strange ruins beneath the waves-paved roads, walls, and circular foundations seen through clear water. Modern sonar surveys have found anomalous structures and plateaus that appear man-made. However, deep-sea sediments and tectonic activity make conclusive evidence elusive. The Atlantic Ocean floor, its dynamic ridges, fractures, and volcanic islands rise and fall over millennia. Could a once exposed landmass have sunk beneath the sea as sea levels rose? But the Atlantic isn't the only candidate. Santorini, in the Aegean Sea, offers another compelling clue. Around 1600 BCE, the volcanic island of Thera erupted with unimaginable force, obliterating the Minoan civilization on Crete and causing tsunamis across the Mediterranean. The destruction was sudden, and the Minoans were known for their advanced art, plumbing, and navigation. Some scholars argue Plato's Atlantis story may have been inspired by memories of this catastrophe, passed down and magnified through oral tradition. Yet, the Minoans lived thousands of years after Plato's supposed date for Atlantis, and their island didn't vanish into the sea entirely. So if Plato was describing real events, they must reach back even further. Let's look at the maps. Long before satellites, ancient cartographers produced charts that still puzzle modern experts. One of the most mysterious is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 CE by an Ottoman admiral. It shows the coastlines of Africa and South America with astonishing accuracy, and even parts of Antarctica, centuries before it was officially discovered. The map, Piri Reis claimed, was compiled from older sources maps from ancient times. How could they have known these coastlines unless they inherited the knowledge from a seafaring civilization that existed before the Ice Age, when sea levels were lower and the Antarctic coast was ice-free? Could that civilization be Atlantis? Across the ocean in the Americas, we find architectural wonders that defy simple explanation. The pyramids of Teotihuacan, the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman in Peru, and the colossal statues of Tiwanaku near Lake Titicaca display precision engineering that still baffles researchers. Tiwanaku, once thought to be only 2,000 years old, has yielded astronomical alignments suggesting a much greater antiquity. Some theorists argue these sites preserve fragments of knowledge, inherited from a forgotten mother culture, perhaps survivors of a global flood who spread across the world after their homeland vanished. There's another clue that rarely gets attention: the underwater ruins off the coast of Japan at Yonaguni. Discovered in 1986, the submerged stone terraces, stairways, and platforms look strikingly artificial. Geological studies suggest they could date back to at least 10,000 BCE, when sea levels were much lower. If these formations are indeed man-made, they would rewrite our understanding of civilization as timeline and align almost perfectly with the date Plato gave for Atlantis as fall. Is Yonaguni a sister city of the same lost epoch? And then there's Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, the world's oldest known temple complex, built around 9,500 BCE. It emerged suddenly with advanced stone carving, astronomy, and organization skills that shouldn't have existed before agriculture or cities. Archaeologists admit it challenges the very foundations of human prehistory. Where did that knowledge come from? Could it have been preserved by survivors of a sophisticated culture wiped out by the Ice Age floods? Plato's timeline again fits perfectly. Even climate science offers intriguing parallels. Around 12,800 years ago, Earth's climate shifted abruptly. Massive meltwater floods swept through North America, possibly triggered by a comet impact or solar flare event. Sea levels rose more than 100 meters, drowning coastal settlements worldwide. In places like the Doggerland, the land bridge once connecting Britain to Europe, villages and forests were swallowed by the rising sea. Similar events occurred in the Persian Gulf, the Sunda Shelf of Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean Basin. These were real Atlantis' lands lost to history as oceans claimed them. One of the most overlooked clues may lie beneath the Sahara Desert. Satellite imagery reveals a massive circular formation known as the Eye of the Sahara, or the Richip structure in Mauritania. It measures over 40 kilometers across, with concentric rings of rock eerily similar to Plato's description of Atlantis' circular capital city. The site was once surrounded by water, with traces of ancient riverbeds and fossils of marine life. While geologists classify it as a natural dome eroded over time, the resemblance has sparked speculation that it could mark the true site of Atlantis, buried not under the sea but under the sands of time. After all, Plato said Atlantis lay in front of the Pillars of Heracles, and the Sahara once extended to the Atlantic coast. But if Atlantis truly existed, why is there no direct evidence, no artifacts, no inscriptions, no ruins we can definitively link to it? One reason may be the relentless passage of time. 10,000 years of erosion, tectonic shifts, volcanic activity, and rising seas would obliterate all but the sturdiest traces. Even the pyramids of Egypt, just 4,500 years old, are crumbling. What chance would the remains of a civilization twice that age have? Still, whispers of advanced knowledge appear in unexpected places. The ancient Egyptians spoke of the god Thoth, who brought them writing and wisdom after a flood destroyed his homeland in the west. The Maya had Quetzalcoatl, a bearded man from across the sea who taught agriculture and astronomy. The Sumerians revered Awanas, who rose from the sea to teach civilization's arts. Different continents, different names, but eerily similar stories. Were these deities mythical or the cultural memories of real survivors from a vanished world? Another detail few discuss is the metallurgical mystery. Plato mentioned that the Atlanteans used a metal called orichalcum, second only to gold in value. For centuries it was thought fictional. Even linguistic evidence offers hints. The Basque language, spoken in a small region between Spain and France, is unrelated to any known European tongue. Genetic studies show the Basque people carry unique markers, remnants of an ancient population predating Indo-European migration. Could they be descendants of an Ice Age civilization that once lived on now sunken coasts of the Atlantic? Then there's the Bimini Road, discovered near the Bahamas in 1968. A formation of massive stone blocks stretches half a kilometer underwater. While skeptics call it a natural formation, divers insist the stones appear shaped and placed deliberately, resembling a harbor or ancient roadway. Curiously, it lies in the same region psychic. Edgar Cayce predicted Atlantis would reappear between 1968 and 1969. Whether coincidence or not, sonar scans continue to reveal geometric anomalies in the area. Modern oceanography has begun to map the seafloor with unprecedented precision. Hidden plateaus, submerged river systems, and shelf edges reveal that vast tracts of habitable land were indeed lost between 12,000 and 6,000 BCE. In other words, there truly were Atlantis' multiple lost lands swallowed by rising seas as the planet warmed. Perhaps Plato's Atlantis wasn't a single island but a composite memory, blending events, myths, and knowledge from several sunken regions that once flourished. along ancient coastlines. When we examine the DNA evidence, things become even more intriguing. Recent genetic studies show that humans spread and intermingled far earlier and farther than once thought. Mysterious lineages appear in both the Old and New worlds, hinting at prehistoric transoceanic contact. How did similar pyramid designs, solar cults, and calendar systems arise independently across continents? Coincidence or a shared heritage passed down from a lost seafaring culture? The mainstream academic view remains skeptical, arguing that Plato's Atlantis was purely allegorical, a moral lesson about hubris and the dangers of imperialism. But even within that interpretation, something deeper resonates. Plato described Atlantis as technologically advanced yet spiritually corrupted, a warning about imbalance between wisdom and power. The enduring fascination with Atlantis may reveal more about us than about the ancient past. Our longing for lost perfection and our fear of repeating the same mistakes. And yet, the physical clues continue to accumulate. Sonar scans in the Caribbean, satellite images of circular structures beneath the Sahara, geological cores showing sudden floods around 9600 BCE all align with Plato. As words far more than coincidence should allow. What if Plato wasn't inventing history, but preserving it an echo of something the ancients themselves barely remembered? In the end, perhaps the truth of Atlantis lies somewhere between myth and memory, philosophy and geology. It may never be found as a single city, because it may not have been one. Atlantis could represent the final chapter of a forgotten epoch, a time when human civilization flickered briefly before the waters rose, erasing nearly all trace of it. Its story survived not in ruins, but in myths carried by survivors who rebuilt the world on higher ground. So, was Atlantis real? Maybe not in the way movies imagine it with crystal palaces and airships beneath the sea, but perhaps as a memory of the last great flood, the end of the old world and the dawn of ours. The clues nobody talks about: the flood layers, the sunken plateaus, the circular ruins, the sudden appearance of advanced knowledge all suggest that something extraordinary happened at the end of the Ice Age, something humanity remembered as a golden age lost to water. And as archaeologists, explorers, and dreamers continue to scan the depths, the legend of Atlantis refuses to sink. Because somewhere between fact and fable, the idea of a lost world reminds us of the fragile boundary between civilization and chaos, knowledge and myth, land and sea. In that sense, Atlantis never really disappeared. It lives on in our imagination, in our questions, and in the quiet realization that maybe, just maybe, the story wasn't entirely made up after all. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more historical documentaries and legendary stories from around the world.